use the same repository and do the changes and track the changes as well. So for
Got it.
all
Makes
that,
sense.
GitHub works. Usually, like for example, in GitHub, how we do is like okay. For example, if you take, so first is like you will have a repository. You will create a repository. These steps you also have to do because mm, y- you have to maintain your own repository. So first is like first you need to create tomorrow, or you can try, you can create a new repository.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure for all projects. And as it is like private or public based on the necessity, you will keep, but companies usually private and only few people can have access. So that is like fixed, or everyone cannot raise a pull request also. Once a repository is created, this is the GitHub link we call. We use this to clone the repository. So like this is the remote link URL for the repository. So if you want this in your system, what you have to do is like you have to clone the repository. You can either use command line, like basically even in VS Code or anti-gravity, you have to go to terminal and you have to clone the repository. That is one way of doing. Or here we have source control. Here you can configure your git credentials and directly you can uh, pull the changes and all easily. You don't have to manually type all the commands.
Mm-hmm.
So in
Okay.
every tool, VS Code or anti-gravity, cursor, whatever IDE they use, they everything has the same. You will have a terminal where you can type commands, or you can directly use this source control to clone the repository. So once that is done and you will clone the repository, that means that repository is in now in your local system.
Okay.
So now if you see, if I do ls, I have this repository here, this test data engineering. This is my new
Mm-hmm.
repository, so I have this repository here. And every GitHub will have .git files. Like for example, this .git ignore file, this why we usually use is like to tell git commands. Like for example, this git is a command, right?
Yes.
So to tell git command to ignore these files, so that means
Okay.
it won't push it to GitHub remote location.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I'm going out of, if you don't need all these, you can let me know.
Mm, yeah, no worries,
No
Bhavna.
worries,
It
okay.
is for it is information purpose. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is
following.
git ignore file, every most repositories will have. And as I mentioned, these are the workflow files where you will configure what it has to run. Like for example, I change some file, even if I change a readme file also, it the pipeline will be automatically triggered. That you can configure here by using
Oh,
this on command. So as a DevOps engineer, mostly you will be working on these YAML files only. Like
mm-hmm.
here you will write what it has to do, when it has to run. So those all you will do. And if it requires any secret variables like passwords and all, you will specify it here. And if it has any repositories to check out, so you will add those steps here. And like that you will configure multiple steps. And what it does is, whenever someone raise a pull request, or someone, even whenever some uh, they want to test how the regression tests perform, like what tests they have to run, like regret, like every production also they will have some test cases to run, right? So those all
Yes.
they can configure in these YAML files, basically the DevOps purpose. So they can configure
Mm-hmm.
and it will be executed automatically. Manually, you don't have to run anything. If we can
Okay.
automate those steps, we can, everyone will add it in the CI/CD pipelines. We call them as CI/CD pipelines or DevOps pipelines.
Got
So
it.
these are the
So
YAML
it is
files.
a duty of data engineer to do that?
As a data engineer, like for example, you have to at least understand, like you build a pipeline. So
Mm-hmm.
sorry, you do your data engineering changes, you will push in your repository, those has to
Yes.
deploy, right?
Yes.
So that deployment you have to take care. As a
Okay.
DevOps engineer, what they will do is they will give you a template how you can create this YAML file.
Okay.
Like if
Makes
they
sense.
have some specific proxy conditions or a Docker images conditions, so they will tell
Mm-hmm.
you how to do those. They will give templates. As a
Okay.
data engineer, you have to make sure that your deployment is working fine.
Okay.
So you can not go and ask, right, I have done my changes, you have to deploy. That won't make sense in real time, right? So
Exactly.
that dependency if you have, so minimum basic knowledge you need to have. What is this workflows and what is these YAML files, what are the steps, like basic knowledge you need to have.
Sure.
So that's why I'm going through this also, because you need to have this knowledge, you need to trigger new pipelines, and you need to
Yes.
maintain your repository. At starting stages only they will provide information how to do,
Mm-hmm.
but if
Okay.
that is an already existing repo, you have to maintain. So here if you see, these are all various steps this pipeline will take care automatically, so you don't have to run manually every time. So if you raise a pull
Hmm.
request, these all steps will take care automatically. I'm just going overview, we'll just go through how to write all those also.
Sure. Yeah, Bhavna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like giving you heads up, like why we need this file and what it does.
Got
Basic
it.
overview, we can go deep dive exactly what this each step does.
Yes.
So
And also, how did you connect over here? Also, like, how did you get it from GitHub to anti-gravity? Also, maybe
yeah,
like we
so
used a terminal.
yeah, we can use terminal. I'll like basically what I did is like I created a repository here, right, already.
Yes.
Sorry, here I created a repository and I have the link of the repository.
Yep.
Otherwise I'll open the existing one maybe. So this is my existing repository. So what it does is I'll go to the code and I'll get the HTTPS link.
Okay.
So for the first time it will ask for the credentials in your system if you are doing it for the first time. Otherwise you
Mm-hmm.
can directly type git clone and the URL you will paste.
And hit enter.
Yeah, and press enter. What it does is it will clone the repository, and if you see, it has cloned and I have all the files.
Everything.
So as I already have that folder, I am deleting it.
Yeah.
So that's how you'll clone. Or like for example, if you do any changes also, like for example I just did deleted few lines in this, right? So I can see what all changes I did. Like for example, this file has been changed here.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we can easily track if there are any changes in our local repository.
Got it. So it's having versions
Yeah,
basically.
So basically if you see, versions is nothing but here like commit history.
Okay.
So these are the various commits. Like for example, if I do a git commit, it will create a separate unique commit identifier. So this will be unique. So if something happens, for example, this commit is not working fine, I need to revert. So what I'll do is I'll use this commit ID as a reference and revert to that.
Yes.
So that's how we usually use, mostly for this commit details and pipeline details. Like for example, as I mentioned, we automatically triggered the pipelines, right? So those
Mm-hmm.
all, how we can see is, in GitLab we will have everything in actions, but in some we will see a build pipeline structure also. For example, here instead of actions we will see build.
Okay.
So something like that, the terms will be different, but everything you will see here. And even if you don't, first time you don't know how to go there, what you can do is, like if you do go to commits, here you will see like a cross mark or tick mark, right? So that means
Yes.
here the build is failed.
Failed.
Yeah, if you see a tick mark, that means the build is passed. So like that also you can track for this
Oh,
commit what build it has been triggered. So usually deployment purposes only we use our pipelines. So here you can exactly see at which step it failed. So it failed to create a S3 bucket. So
mm-hmm.
those all you can see.
Yes.
So that's why we usually use Git to like maintain our repository and to track what changes we are been doing and to do continuous deployment. So you don't have to manually run anything. If something is if something can be automated, we'll automate that using pipelines.
Yeah.
So next, like once you clone the repository and you will have your it will create that whatever files you have in the GitHub, you will get all the files here. Then for to execute Python in your system, first step is like you will install Python. Okay, like you
Mm-hmm.
will download Python executable from Google and you will install it. Next step is every repository will have different versions of Python. It's not mandatory that entire company uses same versions, right? So
Yes.
for example, for one repository they'll use Python 3.10 and for few they use Python 3.13.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of installing all versions into the entire system, what we do is like we create virtual environments. So what we do instead, like for example, for one project you use Python 3.10. For another project you use Python 3.13. So if you at first in your system you will install any specific Python version, you won't install multiple versions. So for example, at first in my system I have Python 13. So then if I want to run project 2, what I'll do is like I will create a virtual environment. This is also mostly we will use for all the Python projects. So instead of what it does is like it the entire Python 13 code will be present in this folder only, it won't be in your system.
Okay.
So for that we use this command. So Python minus m venv. So this Python can be any version. So Python minus m venv, and here we will give some name, test1 or test2 something, or usually we follow this structure also. just .env. So what it does is it will create this specific virtual environment for that repository in this folder. So Python is not there. Okay. So if you see, it will create a environment in this workspace folder. So here if you see, here I have my Python version. So
Yeah.
this venv, instead of like this, we maintain for each repository so that we don't add unnecessary packages, and also we don't have any conflicts between different versions. Like for example, this repository requires Python 3 like for example pandas package, it requires pandas some version x version, the other
Mm-hmm.
repository requires pandas y version. So we cannot
Mm-hmm.
install two versions using same Python because it will give conflict. So that's why we create different environments, and we will keep that in the repository folder itself to avoid confusion.
Got it.
So, and this is one file, and next thing you have to remember mostly about Python environments is this requirements.txt file. This requirements.txt file, what it is like, for example, in your repository, uh, you will use multiple modules. Like for example, in Python, we call all the import statements whatever we have, right? Those we call as modules, right? So
Yes.
those all
Mm-hmm.
we have to specify somewhere. So that we will specify in this requirement doc text file. So basically this file, why we are creating is like, if you want to run this repository, whatever modules this repository needs, that has to be installed first. As a new member to the team, you don't know what modules it uses, right? Unless and until you go and debug.
Mm-hmm.
So instead we will create this requirements.txt file, which we will use to install all the required packages for this repository. So for that we use this pip command,
Yeah.
pip
Pip install.
install -r requirements.txt. So what it does is it will install all the packages required for this repository. So this is one thing, and mostly as a data engineer for AWS you will use boto 3. Boto 3 is nothing, we use this for all the AWS services.
Okay.
And request module, mostly we use it like if we want to connect to a URL or something, or if you want to get any response from the URL, we will use request module. And pandas is mostly, we pandas is nothing but like data you will read, right? Everything from CSV or even database, that all we will use pandas module for that. And PySpark also related to data only, it is also for data only, for data frames and all. But this is mostly for glue, we will use PySpark because it is faster, because pandas module takes like lot of memory, and
Mm-hmm.
on glue job it will like take lot of memory, which will reduce the speed and processing speed. So for that mostly we prefer PySpark in AWS glue jobs. So that's why we have this. Once that is done, here I got some error because of conflict issue. So because I did not activate the, so we created the virtual environment, right? I have to activate that also. So I did not activate it. It is not coming. So Windows activation and MacBook activation commands will be different. For MacBook we will use like source this path, and for
Mm-hmm.
Windows we need to use like at the end we'll have, for Windows you will have this folder structure scripts slash activate dot psl or something, ps1 or psl something, it will be there. Source also
Okay.
you don't need, you just have to run that command.
Mm-hmm. Usually in companies they use Windows only, or it will be like
Yeah, Mac
Mac.
also some, usually if you have Indian managers they will prefer Windows, but few companies they will ask you need Mac or Windows, you
Okay,
can
it
say.
depends on us.
Mm.
Makes sense.
So you can activate and then you will install, so that it will be in that location and you won't have any conflicts. Because here if you see the I got conflict, right, it failed pip install.
Yes.
So
Now it went
it will
successful.
take time. Pandas is like very big
Yeah, yeah. So,
package.
uh, so you prefer Mac only, like
uh,
where you work? Is it like that?
no, I prefer Mac because I got used to this personal laptop a lot,
Okay,
but
okay.
in current company I have Windows.
Windows, okay. Yeah.
So it will, once it is done, then that's how you usually use terminal. Even for execution also, mostly you'll use terminal and all. If you want to run specific Python script, you will first source your virtual environment, then you will run your Python script.
Okay.
So the like for example, okay, so once that is done I can show you, and we usually have the readme also, which will help us like to understand what you have to do to use this project, like what all steps you need to do. And some companies instead of requirement dot text they will have uv dot log sorry py project dot toml file and uv.log. This is also, instead of pip they will use these two. Instead of requirements.txt they will use this one, and
Okay.
uv.log is mostly, if you want to install this one you will use uv tool instead of pip. Instead of requirement.txt, this is the file they use. Instead of pip they will use uv. So few companies use different way of handling the virtual environments and all. Once that is done, it's now installing. So usually you will write your Python scripts like this, right? So .py files, the first is like you will have all the import statements whatever you need. Like for example I need to access the glue job, so boto3 will have required functions to create a glue job or to run a glue job. It will have required functions, this boto3 mainly for AWS services only.
Okay.
And this JSON, as I mentioned, we will mostly use these JSONs for the configuration purposes. If you like for example in a repository uh, you will maintain some configurations, those all configurations you will write it in JSON file and you will use that instead of hard coding the values. At least in this repository I don't have JSON file, but later I'll show it to you how it looks. And the next thing you have to remember is like this env file. What it does is like you have, for example, for each project we need some environment variables like passwords or even AWS credentials or S3 bucket
Yes.
values.
Mm-hmm.
Those all you need. Those you cannot hard code in the code because it will be difficult to change, and passwords and all you cannot share in GitHub. You cannot save the passwords in GitHub
Mm-hmm.
because everyone will know, right? So what we do is like for each repository we create a .env file. How we will create? They will have some env.sample. In that they will specify what all you have to specify in the as a environment variables. So
Okay.
in my env sample I have all these environment variables. So what I have to do is like I'll create a copy of this file and rename it to just .env, and here I'll write all my credentials. So if I want to run this any script for this repository, if it has dependency on these envs, it will take it from .env file. And in Python code, how we will link this .env is like we will have one function load env. It's not in this report. Okay. Okay. So eh, like if you don't know anything, usually in every company they'll have this uh, LLM, or even for Visual Studio or Anti-Gravity you will have this. You can just ask why is this.
Mm-hmm.
And even nowadays like most of the time we will use we won't go and write any Python code. We will use LLMs only to write the code.
Okay.
Even if you are stuck somewhere, it will help you to debug the issue. But we will have tokens issue. Like for example, if you see, I can use these all models, but I can have a limit. Usually companies have a limit. You can only use till this many tokens and all.
Okay.
So we have to use like carefully so that we won't run out of tokens, because
Mm-hmm.
we need for entire month. Every month they will reset. So
Okay, I see.
monthly basis
Mm-hmm.
they will give new tokens. So you will use to write the code and even to understand. Like for example, usually in a company, if they give the repo, you can ask, give it to Copilot or cursor to any tool, and you can ask, explain what is this repo and how I can use this repo. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
manually go and see.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Then so by tomorrow you try to create one repository in GitHub and
Mm-hmm.
clone that repository, and try to create a readme. I'll show you commands also how to push the code. Like for example, uh, now I'll go to new repository. In this new repository I don't have anything. So I don't have anything in this repository, right? So if I want to do any changes to this, like for example, I want to create a readme. So what I'll do is like first I'll create a new file. Sorry, small letters MD. So I'll create a new file. I'll type some content. So now I need to add this file so I can here go directly and see which file I need to add. If I click on plus, it does a git add function. So
Mm-hmm.
or terminal also you can do git add readme like this, or you can do, or you can just here click a plus symbol.
Plus, yeah,
Yeah.
that will be in our Git.
No, it won't be. It's like you are just telling Git which all files it needs to add.
Okay, okay.
Then Git commit. Usually, different companies follow different formats for this commit. Commit message has to be in specific format. You will either use a Jira number to track. Like why we use Jira number is like you exactly know for which Jira ticket you did the change.
Yes.
So that linking we can get if you add a Jira number, or someone will ask to add a CI skip. CI skip is nothing but, as I mentioned, automatically every repository will have some pipeline to trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to trigger, then you can add CI skip. But these all will be taken care by DevOps team. You don't have to worry. They will give you something, some type of message format you have to use. So but different companies will have different things. So here you can mention added a readme file. So it added it, okay. So if you give git status, you can see what all it changed. Why it didn't git add? Okay, okay. I think this plus for some reason it didn't work. Usually maybe I'm not in that folder here, because I am in different folder, so it did not
Different.
work. So
Mm-hmm.
git commit. Then for the first time when you create a new branch, branch topic also I'll cover. So for the first time when you push, you will push like for example, usually in companies we will have multiple people. So how they will work is like they will create a new branch. So to create a new branch, they will type a command git checkout -b, or you can do it in GUI also.
Okay.
So you will create a new branch and you will add your changes. You do git commit, git add and git commit in this branch. Then you will do git push. For the first time, you have to run this command. From next time you just can run git push, it will work, because the test branch is not in the remote location. So you are telling I am pushing to a test branch. So now what happens is everything is stored in GitHub.
Yeah.
So here if you see, we got the readme file. This is in test branch. So
Mm-hmm.
and one more thing we have to remember in like this, directly you cannot push everything to main branch, because main branch is the single branch which is like for deployments everything we'll use, right? So what we do is like to get it reviewed and all, we'll use pull request or merge request. And the base branch, okay, here we don't have any base branch, but usually you will have two branches and you will raise a pull request and you will merge, because we did not create any other branch, it is not there. Wait, I'll show that. This all process we follow, that's why I'm trying to go start from there.
Yeah.
So now we can create a pull request, so you can compare and create a pull request. So if someone wants to review, you can review. Here you can add reviewers and all. You can see
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it has been changed between the two commits or two branches. Then you will merge pull request. What it does is like you will get everything into one single branch, main branch. So that's how we maintain our Git repository secure, and we can collaborate between team members. So, and here you can see we have two branches, and here also you can directly go and create a new branch. Then you can check out the
Mm-hmm.
those all you can do here also, either in CLI or GUI. So that's how we do. And if you want to run any Python script, as we already sourced here at the left, you can see, right, dot venv.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that we
One
use it
second.
like a, that shows that we are in that environment. Then you can run any script you need. In this we don't have any py files. I'll create maybe. So for example, if I want to create a any py file, what I do is like, for example, I'll show you how to read a CSV. Okay, in using Python. So for example, assume I have a CSV file. One second.